Arabia, a land where reptiles rule. 300 million years of evolution have created the ultimate desert survivors. They're masters of saving energy, but can strike in an instant. They can make a small meal last a long time. Each creature has a way to cope with extremes. They change their behavior as the sun changes position in the sky. Here, the heat of the desert is no match for life in cold blood. It sometimes feels like mammals rule the world. There are well over 5,000 species, colonizing every corner of the globe. But in Arabia, it's a different story. At first light, a nocturnal spiny mouse is having one last forage before returning to his den. But it lives in a land where reptiles rule. A perfectly honed predator, the Clifford's diadem snake, chooses early morning to hunt. The 2-meter diadem has large eyes and chemical detection to track the mouse down, even in the dim morning light. A tight squeeze is all it takes. Each time the mouse exhales, the embrace tightens. The victim suffocates. The bones of the diadem's skull are loosely attached with rubbery ligaments, so they can expand and move independently to walk the prey through the jaws. Reptiles are ectotherms and save energy by not heating their bodies internally, like a mammal does. It's one of the secrets of their enduring success. Snakes can survive on just 50% of their body weight in food each year. The mouse meal could keep the diadem going for months. In a land where resources are scarce, cold-blooded creatures have the upper hand. Little wonder they thrive in the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula. The peninsula covers 3.1 million square kilometers. Its interior is mostly desert, bordered by mountains on the east and west, and surrounded by warm tropical seas. Among the mountain ranges, valleys offer cooler conditions where vegetation can grow. The habitats are diverse, but reptiles have evolved to exploit them all. It's 6 a.m. in the hot, dry Arabian interior. The temperature is already 26 degrees Celsius. It looks barren and is almost devoid of water. But the harsh terrain is teeming with life. "172 species of reptile live in Arabia. More than half are found here and nowhere else in the world. One of the biggest families, with 17 species, is the agamids. Like all reptiles, they start their day basking in the sun to warm up. Reptiles are like living solar panels, absorbing the sun's heat and using it as an energy source to power their bodies. Being ectotherms, or cold-blooded, doesn't mean reptiles are cold. It means they cannot regulate their temperature internally. Instead, they warm and cool their bodies using the environment around them. The toad-headed agama is specialized in making his living on the rolling sand dunes of the desert. Every morning he basks in the sun. It's vital if he wants enough energy to hunt. But there's no cover on the dunes. He's exposed. And even his perfect camouflage can't protect him from eyes in the skies. The eagle has impeccable vision. It's capable of spotting a desert hare from 3 kilometers away. Luckily, the agama has a disappearing act. Fast vibrations, the so-called shimmy burial, throws up enough grains of sand to cover his body. For the little lizard, it's dangerous to be out in the open. But the biggest of the agamids seems a lot less concerned as he begins his day. At 70 centimeters long, the dub is the armored tank of the agamid world. He spent the night in a den underground and now joins the sunbathers. His body is armored with tightly packed scales made of keratin, like fingernails. Some are even further reinforced by bony structures called osteoderms. Reptiles were the first animals to develop scaly skin. This breakthrough gave them an evolutionary edge. It made them waterproof, meaning they could be the first large creatures to live on land. Keeping water out is as important as keeping water in. Even Arabia's sun doesn't dry them out. The dub has a variety of scale shapes and sizes, including spiny bands on its tail that provide even more protection, something it might need. This is a monitor lizard, close cousin of the infamous Komodo dragon, and the undisputed king of the sand dunes. At up to 1.3 meters long, it's the largest and most aggressive lizard in Arabia. But during early mornings, while the sun's still weak, all reptiles are taking things slow. Reptiles have colonized all the habitats of Arabia, even the sea itself. But as the sun rises over the waves, things seem to have gone awry for a pair of marine inhabitants. Two Arabian Gulf sea snakes are stuck in the rock pools. These are among the most venomous animals on Earth, with the power to kill creatures many times their own size. But now they're in trouble. At high tide, they were hunting close to the coast, but the water levels receded. Now they're trapped, stranded in rock pools until the next high tide. Sea snakes originally evolved on land, but 6 million years of evolution have adapted them to a life beneath the waves. Like all reptiles, they must breathe air, but can hold their breath for several hours, thanks to massively elongated lungs that stretch almost the entire length of their bodies. Their flattened bodies turn their tails into paddles to help them swim. Most snakes have broad scales on their bellies for grip. Sea snakes sacrifice these for streamlining and are covered in smaller fish-like scales. They're the reptilian equivalent of whales and dolphins. Terrestrial animals so well adapted to the seas that they can no longer function on land. Without the ability to move quickly across the sand or strike at passing prey, they could starve or find themselves at the mercy of opportunistic predators. They have no choice but to wait for the tide to turn and hope the water gets to them before the gulls do. By 9 a.m., it's over 37 degrees. At this temperature, reptiles are in their prime. The monitor is now turbocharged by the sun. As his body temperature increases, so does the efficiency of his senses. As well as excellent hearing and eyesight, his long forked tongue flicks out to collect minute scent particles in the air. Each prong of the fork works independently. It can tell which side the strongest scent is coming from, giving it directional smell. He's on the trail of the dove. But the dove sees it coming. He's nicknamed the spiny-tailed lizard for a reason. He can inflate his body to wedge himself into the hole, with his tail sideways to lock him in. A spiny barricade that's too much for most predators to bother with. But the monitor has picked up a different scent. This is a rare find in the desert, an unguarded quail nest. But just when he's ready for breakfast, something else catches his eye. There's only one thing that threatens a monitor lizard, and that's another one. But the second lizard is smaller. It flattens itself against the dune, hoping to go unnoticed. Monitor lizards are all about personal space and won't hesitate to fight over resources. The eggs can wait. The threat's too much for the smaller one. Honor defended, the bigger lizard can go back to breakfast. Many of Arabia's reptiles are territorial. Some literally turn blue at the sight of an intruder. There are no prizes for guessing how the blue-headed agama got its name. The males position themselves on prominent lookouts where they can watch over their territories. They're looking for females. When they spot one, they turn on the charm by doing push-ups until they're blue in the face. The color tones down at other times, but when they breed, they crank it up. Each male tries to intimidate its rivals by looking the fittest and most colorful. Changing skin color is a trick that some agamids share with a peculiar cousin found in the dense vegetation of the southern coast. There are about 200 species of chameleons spread throughout the tropics. But the Arabian chameleon is an endemic found here and nowhere else. One thing all chameleons have in common is their famous ability to change color. As this Arabian chameleon stalks through the branches, pigmented layers of skin, rich in expandable color cells, move over one another to change the way they reflect light, effectively enabling him to change his color. His varied wardrobe can be used for many purposes. to stand out and communicate with other chameleons, to blend in and go unseen by his insect prey, or to lighten or darken his color to reflect or absorb the sun to help with temperature control. His feet are unlike any other reptiles. He has the typical 5 toes, but they're fused into 2 bunches, making them look a bit like mittens. They're perfect for maintaining a grip on the branches. His arboreal life is further stabilized with a long prehensile tail. A lot of the comical chameleon's character comes from its extraordinary eyes. The tiny pinpricks between its eyelids can be rotated independently, enabling it to scan through 360 degrees. Its brain can interpret the information from each. It's like watching 2 different movies at the same time. Back out on the sand dunes, the Mercury is climbing. The toad-headed agama lifts himself standing on tiptoes. This allows cooling air to circulate around his body and minimizes contact with the hot sand. The dub spent the cooler hours of the morning using his chisel-shaped teeth to clip tough desert vegetation. But time's running out for his veggie brunch. By late morning, the air temperature can soar to a scalding 49 degrees. But the baked sand is hotter, nearly 64 degrees to the touch. Too hot for reptiles. This heat compromises their endurance. Even the desert-dwelling dub retreats to the shade of his burrow for an afternoon siesta. Underground, the humidity can stay as high as 80%, making it a comfortable retreat, even on the hottest of days. Several dubs share the system of tunnels, which can be over 10 meters long. They also tolerate squatters like beetles, geckos, and even birds. Because sand burrows often collapse, they dig on the gravel plains that run under the sand for stronger structural support. The colony of lizards will use the same burrow for many years. This lush green seems a world away from the sandy desert, a rare oasis created by a natural spring and rain. Here, vegetation shades animals from the burning sun. Trees provide shelter, but also cover for some deadly hunters. Orb-weaver spiders get their name from the circular or spiral shape of their webs. Every morning they build their webs, but they're for one-time use only. The spider will eat the threads at the end of the day and start again tomorrow. It's a 1 meter long, strong, almost invisible trap. The sticky threads will snare any insects that pass too close. To stop the prey from struggling and damaging the web, or the spider, it's injected with paralyzing venom and wrapped in a package of silk. The venom contains enzymes that also slowly break down the fly's body tissue. Eventually, the contents will be a nutritious soup that the spider can drink. Despite its 10-centimeter leg span, the hunter can become the hunted. The quirky chameleon is a surprisingly skillful hunter. As it stalks, it rocks gently, mimicking branches blowing in the breeze, making itself invisible to its prey. When it spots a potential meal, its wandering eyes both focus forwards for precise depth perception. Once in strike range, it can deploy its weapon. The tongue is twice as long as its body and tipped with a ball of muscle that can turn itself into a big suction cup. When unleashed, it accelerates as fast as a car doing 0 to 100 in 1/100th of a second. Unlike the reptiles in the desert, the Arabian chameleon can stay active throughout the day. The vegetation here acts as a moisture trap between the mountains and the sea, creating a microclimate that stays at a fairly constant 32 degrees year-round. On the other side of the mountains, it's dry and very hot. Mid-afternoon can peak at over 50 degrees. Animals must retreat, leaving the desert seemingly empty. The boulders provide some shady cover for a varied community of different geckos. There are 28 species in Arabia, making them the most numerous reptile family. Most geckos have tiny hair-like structures on their toes that act like Velcro, helping them climb steep surfaces. The sticky pads are especially pronounced in the fan-footed gecko. Like most geckos, it's a creature of the night with large, sensitive eyes. Because they're so sensitive to light, their pupils must contract a few hundredths of their original size during the day to avoid damage from sunlight. But not semaphore geckos. They're day active and don't need to see in the dark. Their pupils are large and round by day. They're called semaphore geckos because unlike other species that communicate with sound, they communicate by waving their tails like flags. This species, the Carter's semaphore gecko, goes a step further. The male has an enlarged tail to send clearer signals. The bigger and spinier it is, the more attractive he is to females. With his impressive package, this fella's managed to attract a mate. She's had a growth spurt and has just finished shedding her skin. Rigid scales can't expand, so as a reptile grows, it must shed its skin and grow a new one, with a little room to spare. For any small animals that risk daylight activity, there's the threat of aerial attack. When a flock of ravens turns up, it's time to retreat. The day is almost over on the coast. After 12 hours, the tide eventually returns, releasing the sea snakes from their rock pool prisons. They can finally return to the sea. They immediately begin to hunt, exploring the corals and looking for a suitable target. Like its cousins on land, the sea snake has a forked tongue, but only needs to extend the tips to taste traces of prey in the water. Its bold stripes announce its toxic venom to other marine predators, like hungry sharks, leaving it to hunt undisturbed. It moves with fluidity and grace, now that it's finally back where it belongs. As the day moves on, the temperature slowly drops. For many animals, this is the time to get more active. But not for all of them. Because fission's so important to the chameleon's hunting, it's active by day and sleeps by night. So as the sun sinks, it makes its way deeper into the vegetation, looking for a safe spot to sleep, usually hidden under a leaf. The dense foliage will also help incubate it during the cooler night. Some chameleons are known cannibals, which is probably why smaller individuals sleep in different parts of the vegetation than the adults, as they try to stay off the big guy's menu. Once the sun sets, the temperature on the sandy desert drops quickly. By 6 p.m., it's a slightly more comfortable 37 degrees. The dove has had an evening snack of desert plants while it was cooler. But now he heads inside. Evening is when one of the desert's most notorious killers stirs. A horned viper, armed with potent venom, is ready to hunt. It seeks out a good hideaway, where it can lie in wait to ambush passing prey. A hooded malpolon is also preparing to hunt. Before it begins its night of prowling, it performs a peculiar ritual, a trait shared with very few other species. Known as self-rubbing, it spreads a fatty secretion from its nasal glands along its body. The purpose of this lipid-rich liquid is to seal in moisture so that it's not lost to the warm air. It's a more active predator than the viper and seeks out its victims rather than lying in wait. Rodents have spent the day in their underground burrows to stay cool. But now it's their time to forage for seeds, grasses, or even insects. The malpolon is quick to spot a potential meal. Even well-armed predators can be cautious. They need to pick their victims carefully. From ground level, this gerbil looks pretty big. Like all rodents, it has self-sharpening, chisel-shaped teeth and sharp claws. The snake is only likely to strike if the rodent turns to run, giving the snake a clear shot at its unprotected back. But the gerbil wisely turns to face its attacker. It chooses fight over flight. The snake decides not to risk injury, going in search of easier prey. The mammal wins this one. But thanks to the reptile's cold-blooded efficiency, the malpolon can afford to miss a meal. Creatures tucked up safely in their burrows don't escape the dangers of the night. The Arabian sand boa is like a reptilian mole, perfectly shaped for a life of hunting beneath the sand. Its smooth scales lie flat, and its wedge-shaped head allows it to plow through the dunes. It will lie buried, with only its eyes at the surface, to watch for passing prey, like insects and small lizards. The Persian wonder gecko is an endemic species in Arabia. Like most other geckos, it's nocturnal. With its huge eyes, it can hunt insects by moonlight. Most geckos don't have eyelids and must lick their eyes to keep them clean and free of sand. Most have broad toes for gripping surfaces that they climb. But this desert specialist has replaced the pads with comb-like scales to help it move in the sand. The Persian wonder gecko has only been known to science for 20 years. Little is known about its biology. But we do know that this little lizard is regionally endangered. Habitat loss means it is facing extinction in the wild. The temperature reaches its coolest point in the early hours of the morning, where just the faintest moonlight creates an eerie glow. Both air and surface temperatures have stabilized at a comfortable 25 degrees. Perfect for a sand gecko to hunt. He's on the prowl for insects. The gecko uses its huge eyes, pupils fully dilated, to trap any moonlight. He's not the only hunter on the prowl. The horned viper is also looking for a meal. He hunts by touch. He lacks external ears and can't hear, but the inner ear can detect even the faintest vibrations of prey moving nearby. It knows something is there, but it can't seem to pinpoint it. The gecko has the advantage. It can open its pupils to more than 300 times their smaller size to capture even the weakest light. With its perfect night vision, the gecko can stay one step ahead. The secret lives of reptiles often play out under the cover of darkness. In the early hours of the morning, Arabia's biggest reptile is on a mission. A loggerhead turtle, the largest of 4 endangered species of sea turtles that breed on Arabia's coast. Like all reptiles, sea turtles evolved on land. It was during the reign of the dinosaurs that they expanded their range, conquering the sea itself. Now, sea turtles are totally designed for life underwater. But like all reptiles, their eggs must be laid on land. Females travel vast distances to their breeding beaches, to the exact same spots where they themselves hatched, to dig a hole and deposit their eggs. This female's running late. Turtles usually lay during the cooler night and try to be back in the water before sunrise. But she can't go until she completes her task. She's very precise in the construction of her nest. The depth will determine the temperature of the eggs. She's aiming for 28 to 32 degrees. If she gets it right, the warmer top half of the nest will produce female hatchlings, and the cooler lower half will produce males. If she gets it wrong, the whole clutch will be one sex. With the nest complete, she deposits around 120 eggs. A rubbery tube, called a novipositor, extends from her tail to ensure she puts all her eggs in one basket. The shells are rubbery to cushion their fall. Like most reptiles, she won't play any role in caring for her young. Her final task in motherhood is to delicately bury the clutch. The eggs will hatch in 40 days or so, but her job is done. Now she can return to the sea. She won't set foot on land for 3 or 4 years, when she returns to lay again. As the sun rises, the next shift from the reptile kingdom emerges. Ready to exploit Arabia's gift, the sun and its life-giving energy. As their ancestors have for millennia, they recharge their batteries, ready to face the challenges of a new day. Here, cold-blooded creatures have the upper hand. A land where reptiles rule.